Well, it is my privilege today to introduce to you Rita Kirkman. And Rita is a recent member. So in case you forget the name of her website, ritakirkman.com, you can find her on our membership list. And Rita says she was born an artist. She used pastel as a teenager, loved it, got a master's in fine art, and leaned toward portraiture. She had a 12-year career sketching at quick portraits at amusement parks, and then later, for many years, did pencil sketch commissions from clients' photos. For the last 20 years or so, she has really upped her style and her pastel technique, focusing on color and light. We are visiting her in Texas, and I noticed that in 2012 in Texas, she was part of a two-woman show that was entitled The Color of Sunlight. She has a quote on her beautiful website, a Claude Monet quote, which is, "The subject matter, my good fellow, is the light." Okay. This is one of her more current portrait types. She has won, originally her interest in portraiture was mostly people, and then gradually she has changed over to doing many, many animals. She has won many, many awards, including that she is now a Pastel Society of America signature artist. And in IAPS, she is now an eminent pastelist. Okay. I strongly encourage you to visit her website. It is a beautiful website. And if you are interested in picking up some marketing tips or some blogging ideas, she is masterful and has much that we can learn from. There is one page on her website that is just titled About Pastel, and it is as good a one page about the medium that I have seen. She has a very interesting marketing and blogging ideas and has some marvelous workshop ideas. So I hope that you will go on her website, ritakirkman.com, and look at those. Okay. I'm going to go back to this little picture to end my introduction with this quote. She was in a show called Kindred Spirits, and it was a solo exhibition in Texas. And the director of the show wrote this statement about some of her work. This is a partial quote. "Her pieces are filled fragments of color and bold strokes that capture the many textures and patterns that she renders. The situations and expressions of her animals spark a human recognition within us." So at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Rita Kirkman.
Thank you. That was a very nice intro. I'm gonna, let me see, I'm gonna spotlight me. Here we go. Oh,
I spotlighted you.
You gotta jump on me by half a second.
Okay.
I also have decided, since I was told the demo, the meeting time would be kind of short, and the demo you usually like about 45 minutes or so. I have a hard time getting one of these completely done in 45 minutes with the underpainting and the pastel. So I've decided I'm going to do this donkey today. I'm going to pastel it, but I have, this morning I condensed my video. This was one of the paintings that I underpainted recently at one of my virtual open studio days, which you can read about on my website, by the way. So this morning I condensed my underpainting of this down to a little speed video, 5 times the speed of how long it actually took. So I got it down about 3 minutes of a video, and I wanted to just share that with you. This will just show you my underpainting method a little bit, and then I should have shown you my, is this full screening? Oh, I've got my little people on the edge. Can y'all see this okay?
I can see you painting.
Oh, okay.
It's good. It's good.
I've got my, okay. My Zoom window has this little thing on the side that I've moved. So this is part of my underpainting method. I start with one board with a layer of the gold colored primer. And I'm using that gold colored primer for my additional layers. And with my underpainting, I try to catch the values of the image. So I'm not thinking about color when I do this. I'm thinking only about value. And now I'm on that third layer of the gold color.
Rita, is that acrylic?
It is acrylic based. Yes, it's a pastel primer that I mix using pumice gel and an acrylic color added to it. And I wanted to show you all this first. I wanted to show you my materials first, but I'm a little bit backwards here. So I'll let you watch this, this short little underpainting demo. And then I'll tell you what my materials are. And I also, when I'm painting like this, I also like to get in the textures, some of the textures of like the fur and the grasses or whatever. Now here I'm onto the terracotta color. This is actually an Art Spectrum brand that I'm using right now on this. I get the dark values in with the terracotta. So as I'm brushing, I like to go in the direction of the fur, and it helps get some of those textures in that when the pastel goes on, as you'll see today when I pastel it, I utilize some of that texture to create all of the furriness of the animal. You can see the full length video of this on my Patreon page if you're interested in subscribing, by the way. I don't want to turn this into an infomercial, so I won't go too heavy into that, but I do like to let people know that I have a Patreon page, and it can be pretty interesting if that's something that you like. So there's the finished underpainting that I have here right in front of me now. So I'm going to stop sharing. Stop. Oh, so awkward. These little controls on Zoom. I think that's the first time I've ever successfully shared my screen.
You did fine. That's great.
So this is, let me show you my materials. That gold color that you saw that I have on the parts of the underpainting that are gold colored are these two items here. I use the quinacridone nickel azo gold fluid acrylic color by Golden. I really like this brand and this color. Look how dark that looks when it's wet. It's really intense color. And I mix it with the Golden pastel ground. You can also use the Golden fine pumice gel, which I have a whole gallon of actually. I've used that for years and it works the same way. But I mix about 1/4 color into about 3/4 of the pumice gel. And I have my own mixture here in this jar. It's what I have with the gold color. So that's what you first saw there, me doing with those lighter toned layers, the golds. And then the terracotta is the Art Spectrum brand pastel and multimedia primer. And this stuff is already all mixed up. I know some of you might be familiar with this already. Has the pumice in it and everything. So I really like those two colors in combination. I've been doing these types of underpaintings for a long time, long time now. I really love the tone, the warmth that it gives me. So now that you've seen me underpaint it in less than 5 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and pastel this cute little guy. And really, if you guys have any questions at any time, just speak up if you want to unmute. Only if you can mute yourself again when you're done, because one of my peeves in these, one of my peeves in these Zoom things is the background noise. Oh, I hate background noise. So if you want to just type your chat in, and I'm sorry, what is the guy whose name you said? I was going to read the chat. Rob. Yeah, he'll read out the chat for you. Or if you want to just unmute and speak up, that's fine too.
Well, Rita, since you asked, I'll ask a question.
Sure.
So, are you saying that you use this color underpainting on almost all of your subjects, and no matter what the finished color is that you want to use?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I assumed that was.
Almost all. Not all, but almost all. On some portrait commissions, I'll still use just a mid-toned sanded paper, or sometimes I'll still just use Canson. But some landscapes also. Landscapes, I don't really have a formula yet. I'm still feeling my way with landscapes. So sometimes I'll just experiment and do various different things with landscapes. I really like watercolor underpainting with landscapes, actually, but a lot of them I'll do like this, or I'll wash in the pastel with alcohol. I like that too. So my starting point with the pastel is always my darkest dark, or almost my darkest dark. And my two favorite darks are Terry Ludwig Eggplant, which is very rich, intense, deep, violet, which in my opinion actually is the darkest pastel color that there is. Although Diane Townsend has some that are pretty darn dark. And then my other favorite dark is the Girault number 376. And sometimes I'll start with that and then I'll enhance it with the eggplant. But I think right now I'm going to start this with some eggplant because his eyes are pretty darn dark. For many years, long ago, I spent about 5 years not blending anything. Like I just blended that nose. I got away from blending because I was an over blender. This was when I first started really expanding my own abilities with pastel. And my teacher at the time challenged me to that. She said, stop blending, get your fingers out, keep your fingers off the pastel. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did, but boy, was it worth it. Because now when I need to blend, I know where and why and when to blend. And if I don't need to blend, I don't blend. I really prefer not blending. Pastel just has this look to it that is so unique. And if you blend your colors in all the time, it just dulls that down.
Rita, we have a question. I see you're wearing a glove. Do you normally? What are the advantages?
Yeah, I started this habit of glove wearing, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I really like them. I have a hard time working without them now because I'm so used to having them. Uh, it was mainly because the skin on my thumb and my first finger were getting so bad, really, really horrible. Uh, I think it actually started when I was in amusement parks doing portrait sketches, and you know our hand washing habit was a bucket of water with a sponge. That's how we would wash our hands. Um, so from way back then, I would just always have this pastel on my fingers, and I think it was just bad. It was just bad for my skin, um, and I started using those little fingertip things first, but I could never fit it right on my thumb. I never find quite the right size for my thumb because my thumb is pretty fat. So I saw these gloves at Costco, and I thought, I wonder if I would like those. And I picked them up, and I really do like them. I like them a lot. When I take this off, my hand is just super clean and soft and wonderful. They're wonderful. My hands do get a little bit sweaty, but you get used to that. I don't like having to use the gloves if I am working outdoors in the heat. And I don't really, because then they get really sweaty, kind of gross. But in the studio, they're perfect.
Rita, there was another question about the underpainting. Were you using a sponge or a brush on that? Looked like or it was a cloth.
Yeah, I was using a sponge. I used pieces of sponge. Primarily, I started off with pieces of, this is from the inside of an Airfloat art shipping box that I discovered just worked perfectly when sponge brushes from Hobby Lobby were pretty useless on the handle. So I thought, well, why don't I just use sponge without a handle? And basically, I was using the sponge brushes because I hate cleaning brushes, and regular brushes, bristle brushes for my underpainting, just seemed to they made me too tight, and they took too long. It was like I was painting the painting with I was creating the painting when it was supposed to just be an underpainting and help me loosen up. So I started using sponges, and I've been addicted ever since. So here I'm trying to get my darkest shadows in. What I do with these two dark colors that I like is I'm still not really thinking about color in this image. I'm still thinking about value. And it's because the terracotta is really only a mid-tone. It doesn't get as dark as your darkest. So these pastels here are continuing my value scale so that I can have all of the values that I need to have in this underpainting before I start thinking about color.
Roland asked a technical question. How do you get 3 views on your window?
Good question. I'm actually using OBS software. OBS. If you look up the website, is obsproject.org, and it's open source software, so it's free, which is great, and it's pretty widely used in the video industry, streaming and such, and it can connect to the Zoom with a plugin that's called Virtual Cam. Anyway, if you Google it, you'll find out all you need to know. And luckily I have a son who's 20 something and he helped me set it all up. But the OBS can have all of the different scenes can be set up in OBS like this. So I can switch, you know, when I'm talking to you, I can change to this view, and just a click on my keyboard, I can change to my easel view. At the beginning of this pandemic situation, well, not at the very beginning, but shortly afterwards, I realized I was going to have to do something. And actually, what it was I had two face-to-face workshops last fall that switched to Zoom early last year. They decided, I actually had 4 workshops last fall, but two of them canceled and the other 2 switched to Zoom. So this was around, I guess it was around April or May. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I can do that. And then I thought, well, now I've got the rest of the summer to figure out how I can do it. So I figured it out through lots and lots of trial and error. But I have a pretty nifty setup now. Okay, so there's basically my values that I need. Squinting a lot, making sure I get everything where it needs to go. Okay. Now I can start thinking about color. And here's when I kind of sort of start to jump around sometimes. Sometimes I'll be, actually this needs a little bit of a darkness here. Sometimes I will jump right in with a highlight on here. In this case though, I think I'm gonna get my next color into these shadows. So whenever I step back and I think, okay, what color do I need next? I squint and I look at my reference and I look at my painting and I think to myself, what does this need mostly to bring it closer to how I want the painting to look? So at this point, I think mostly it needs a lot of those greens and violets that I'm seeing in those shadows. I'm seeing lots of a violet-y sort of tone running through here in the darkest darks, and I'm seeing lots of greens all over, because right now this has got it's very much terracotta with that dark brown on top. So it's very, very warm, far too warm. So the greens and violets are going to go in. Let's see. Let me try this. This is a darkish violet. Just sort of tinge some of this dark brown with this. And one of the things that I've learned through observation and through other workshops from other people is that when you've got a subject that's outdoors in bright sunlight, then your reflected lights, that means the different lights and colors that are going on the shadowed side of your subject, are affected by the colors that are around in the scene. So when that happens to be a sunny day, of course, the colors that are on the upper angles of the subject are going to be bluer because of the blue sky. It's always on a sunny day, the sky is always blue because it's not cloudy. The sun is out. So you always have bluish. In this case, it's kind of violety tones running through the brown fur. And there's some little bits of blues here and there as well. And on the lower angles that are facing more downward, you get greens, or you get whatever color the subject happens to be sitting on. Sometimes if it's like a dirt area or gravel or something, you'll get more warm oranges and stuff. If it's dried grass from the summertime, you'll get more orangey, yellowish reflected light. So that's why there's so much green in this donkey. It's because all the green, all the grass around him is green. And that light is bouncing off of all the green and onto him. So let me see about some of those greens. I'm going to start with what I think is my darkest. You hear about the pastel process being dark to light. And really the only time that that is true is when you have colors that are overlapping each other. You can jump around otherwise. And because I do a method that is underpainting, where I'm underpainting my values, so I know where my lights are, I know where my midtones are, I know where my darks are, because I have them all laid out already in my drawing, my underpainting. So I can skip around with my dark to light formula. There I just put some of my lightest light in. And I could do that because I know that there won't be anything darker than that on top of that light. Also, now these other areas have dropped down in value in comparison to that light. So I do like to get that in. I like to get my lightest light in at some point pretty early. I didn't put it all the way in everywhere that it's going, but I put some little markers in there in the brightest bits just to give me some visual keys. So here's some green. It's kind of a darkish green. I'm going to lay this in here a little bit. There will be some lighter greens running through here, but where I'm overlapping colors, I want to get my darker tones in first. So that's why I'm working up through these shadow areas from my darkest to my lighter midtones. I tend also to kind of vary my stroke application. It's kind of varied a lot over the years, really depending on whose workshop I took last. Honestly, I actually haven't taken a workshop in a while, but right after I took a workshop with Desmond O'Hagan, I was all about the side. I'd use these strategic half-inch pieces, and I would always use just the side of the stick, and had all these little geometric shapes. That works pretty good on large paintings, but my instinct is so much for small detail that I really enjoy doing the little marks also. These days I tend to kind of use all kinds of marks. Whatever helps me get the color on there the way that I want it. This green that I'm using now is kind of a cool green. It's kind of a very green. Maybe with a little more blue in it than yellow. But in a moment, I'm going to try to pick up this yellowy green that I'm seeing running through here as well. Also seeing a little bit more dark right here.
Rita, can you tell us about your studio lighting setup? What?
Yeah, I'll give you a little tour. Actually, in my studio itself, when these ceiling lights went in, and I don't know why my husband thought that these little fixtures on the ceiling, they're those little square things. I was picturing something with like hanging down out of the ceiling with spotlights coming off of it or something that I could direct. And this is what I wound up with. So I have 6 little square round fluorescents up there, which the color of the light's not bad because the fluorescents you can get in all kinds of colors these days, but it was not enough light. It was just not enough light. So I have on each side of me, I have a light stand with a bulb. Over here, it's a warm bulb. And over here on this side, it's a cool bulb. So I have those on either side of me behind me. And they aim right at my easel. So those are what I get. That's really what I work with, is those 2 lights right there. All right, let me see. I think next I want to get something exciting in there, like one of these bright reds. I want to get that bright orange in there, but I'm seeing that there's actually a little bit of an edge of the dark shadow, that brown edge right there first. Fill this in a little bit more. Okay, now there's a really nice red color here. Kind of making his little tuft on the top of his head a little bit longer because it's so cute. Little artistic license there. And I don't really see this much red on the other parts of his body, but it might work well to have this be more than just on the top of his head. So I'm going to see how this works. Just some little bits of this around where I see that it's the right value. Okay. And then that orange color is a real popper.
Rita, we have a question. Do you draw every day, or what are your good practices for us to adopt that would help us improve faster?
Yeah, draw and paint as much as possible. I don't draw every day. I don't draw as much as I should. I get into these long periods of thinking that I'm just going to rest on my laurels. But you don't improve if you stand still. I think I've gotten to this point where I'm at, which I guess is pretty good. But I got to where I'm at because I did paint a lot ever since I took a Carol Marine workshop. She's an oil painter, but she's a very, very prominent daily painter. And I took her workshop in 2011, I think. And wow, did that really change my whole career. And I started painting much more frequently. I started posting, I think in the 4 years from 2011 to 2015, I went back to my blog and I counted up all my posts, averaged them. I didn't actually count them all. It does that for you. But I averaged 14 posts a month for those 4 years. You know, sometimes I'd be more, 2 weeks straight or 30 and 30 or whatever. And sometimes I'd be less. But on the average, I was posting every other day for 4 years. So maybe not a painting a day, but a painting every other day. That is really good. That will really improve you quickly. Nowadays, I really am not painting that much. Although the solo show that I'm in right now really, really has helped me. It gave me that boost this spring that I needed. Last year is just a number that I want to forget. I was in such a rut from last year. I've heard different things from various people that, I wish that it would have been a year that would have just like put me in my studio and made me work on stuff all the time. But for me, it kind of did the opposite. But yeah, paint as much as you can. I'm going to get a little bit of this bright color in here. Actually, that one's like the underpainting. Let me get that warm yellow. Let me get some more of this light running through here.
Rita, a question about what brand of pencil and paper do you use for drawing?
Well, when I'm doing these underpaintings like this, I like to just use a kind of a mid-value, warm pastel pencil. Let's see. It might be on my other table. Oh, yeah, here we go. So something like this, something like a burnt orange or, sepia or whatever. I have a variety of pastel pencils that I use sometimes, not very often, but for the drawing, I just want to get it so that it's a little bit darker than that gold primer so that I can see the drawing, but that when I put the other layers on, it will blend in and it won't get muddy. So a mid-toned warm pencil.
Oh, the question was not pastel, her pencil drawing.
Oh, when I do a pencil drawing?
Yeah, that's the question.
Oh, like what you saw in the presentation. Those are actually Conte pencils. Conte, oh, I just lost an earbud. Oh. Black HB mostly. HB Conte pencil, like this one. And then the white, yeah, this thing is not fitting. I need to clean my ears, I think. The white on those is a white pastel pencil. So here, what I'm doing is varying. This is the same pastel that's over here. And I can press lighter and get a different sort of tone out of it just by pressing lighter. And that's something I learned from Albert Handel, who says in his workshops, he points out that every pastel stick has at least 2 colors in it, at least. And it all just depends on your pressure. If you press really heavy, you get the pure color that the pastel is. And if you press lighter, you can get a glaze of something that will mix in with what's underneath it. Many of you probably already know this, but I feel like I have, I don't know if some of you, if any of you have seen me demo before, I might be repeating myself. I feel like I wind up with certain things that I say over and over again. Okay, so anyway, there's some little bits of light there. And now I'm going to jump back into my midtones. You see, so that dark to light rule, you can really jump around as long as you know where you're putting stuff. Yeah, that warm green now. I need some of that warm green. So this is like a mid-tone, mid-light toned, really warm yellow green. I'm seeing a lot of it up here. I'm also seeing more of a kind of a bluish green in there too. Once I start getting some of my major tones and colors on, I start to hone in and see like brighter bits sometimes, which I think are so fun. Seeing my eyes are kind of seeing some little bits of something brighter in there, maybe here. And then this right here is kind of a bluish. Let's see. But I'm seeing two different tones of blue in there. So I'm going to start with my darker, whatever that might be. Something like this, maybe. I'm seeing this blue here too. Some of that fur. And when I have a pastel in hand, I always like to look around and see where else do I see this color. Kind of see a little bit of blueness on this shoulder. Okay, now there's a lighter blue right here. I've been forgetting about my background. I like to get some colors that are in the animal also into the background. This green right here is going to be a pretty obvious choice. This is that warm yellow green, or one of them. Oh, I have it in my hand. Okay, so I'm still in these areas where I have overlaps. I have not gotten yet to the lightest values I see in here. Like there's a color that goes here, and there's a color that goes here. That let me go back to this warm green that I was starting to use. I tend to get a little scatterbrained when I'm painting. Sometimes I jump all over the place. I'll be in an area and I'll be like, oh wait, it needs this first. Oh wait, it needs that first. And then I wind up with a handful of different colored pastels.
Rita, there's a question about the paper. So are you using watercolor paper or Reeves BFK or what?
Oh, no, I'm actually using Gator board. My underpainting is on Gator board. So for instance, this is a piece of Gator board to 3/16 inch. And I've primed it with a single layer of the gold color primer that I mix. And that's what I paint on. So that's what this is on right here. That's what this is. It's a piece of Gator board. So it's great because it's already got the backing on it. It's all one piece. I don't need an extra backing. I can just put the glass on there, stick it in a frame, staple the back. I'm kind of addicted to Gator board. Yeah, something about this. Something about that muzzle. I think maybe I need this light to come out over here more. The shape of it is a little off because I didn't have this highlight over here. Oh, that's better. I think this gets actually a little bit darker in here. Maybe.
Rita, there's a comment about, is the grit coming from the pastel medium or is it coming from the pumice for the priming surface? Or both?
Yeah, the little bit of both probably. Well, you need some grit to hold the pastel. That's why I use the primers to underpaint with.
Mhm.
But the textures that I brushed on during the underpainting process are really like over here and on here. They're really pulling out they're really creating a lot of those textures. When I'm just applying the pastel on the side of the stick, let me bring this in a little bit closer so you can see. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. So you see like a lot of those textures that are happening. Some of it is the strokes of pastel, but then some of it is, the texture that's in the underpainting. All right, let's see. So this light around his muzzle is actually more of a bluish sort of green. You know what? That's what I have wrong. These nostrils are higher, and they don't go down that low. Down there is the rest of the muzzle. That's what was throwing me off. Oh, there we go. That's better. All right. Okay. Now, I can't forget about what I'm going to do about that upper background. I have to decide if I want to stay sort of harmonious with the colors that I have got in here already, or if I want to maybe do, I might be able to do some kind of this minty sort of green. Let me see what that looks like. I've got this green in here a little bit. It's a little bit darker than my value that I have on that part of the background. So I'm not going to bring it all the way down. I'm going to let that blend in with something else now, like maybe a lighter green. I just love this gold colored primer with a cooler color on top of it that's the same value. Just glazed on really lightly so that the gold still shows. I just find that to be really exciting. And see, this is a lot of that texture that's showing now. Just dragging this pastel stick on the side, and it's picking up a lot of the texture that's in the primers.
Rita, when you arrange your palette, do you pre-pick your colors and kind of have a, kind of a range from the beginning, or are you just grabbing from a larger palette and as you start to look at it?
Yeah, just grab whatever. I'm not organized enough to pre-pick my palette, although, I have done that a few times in the past, way back. I remember that I did that once or twice when I had these kind of sort of different frames from Hobby Lobby. And the colors on the frames were really not at all what I was used to painting with. And I'm like, man, my paintings are not going to look good in these frames unless I make sure I use these colors in this paint. So for those frames, I did pick my colors out to match what I saw in the frame. It was kind of like a sort of a greenish brownish sort of frame color, and with like a coppery sort of edge or something. And the paintings didn't look much like my photo reference in color wise anyway, but they sure did look great in those frames. So I should learn from that and keep my palette, limited. But I'll give you a little tour of my pastel table if you want. This is here's my pastel table, and there's my Terry Ludwig's, And here's my travel box with a whole bunch of different brands in there. And there's my new Blue Earth. And here's my Rembrandts that I like to keep separate because I like them for the hardness of them. I like to use that for certain things. And so here's the colors that I've already used in this painting are right here. So I do have favorite colors, and I do have certain colors that I know are going to do a certain job the way I want them to. So I do kind of have a favorite sort of palette, I guess, so to speak. And I tend to pick up those same colors each time. So let me look at this. All right, there's something about these lights that are not light enough. Over here, those reds and oranges are fabulous colors, but I need the brighter orange and yellows in there to brighten that up. Maybe just this. Try this yellow first. To brighten this. There's some of this highlight I didn't expand yet. That's a nice highlight right there. There's a highlight right here too that I didn't get. Oops. I love these Diane Townsends for really popping bright bits. Because her tirage colors pretty much go over anything. Go on nice and bold and thick. So I'm trying to put this on without completely obliterating what I've already got under there. I'm just trying to like tone it up a little bit lighter, but keeping these reds and oranges underneath. Until I feel like that sunlit side is bright enough. This highlight wasn't brightened up enough yet either. All right, there's something about the background here that I'm not really happy with. I think probably when I underpainted this, I thought that the slider background would work fine, but I don't actually like it next to that. And you know, there's always something about the photo. Even if it's just some weird, you know, I'm not seeing that other horse's rear end back there when I'm looking at this. But there's something about that value. It's a darker value and it sets off that highlight so nicely. I really should have stuck with that maybe. So if we have time, I'll show you how I can erase. I just dipped my rag in a cup of water. So I have a wet rag and I can lift up some of this pastel off of here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to darken this background a bit. Just to be consistent, I'm going to darken it across the other side as well. So when you're doing backgrounds, you have to really, your background is your supporting cast to your subject. So it has to support it well. I'm just going to put like some dark swath through here. It could be anything. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't have a reason for being there, because visually your brain will make up a reason. I mean, it could be just a line of trees back in the distance, 200 yards away, or it could be something that's casting a shadow or whatever. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that a darker tone is going to look better. So I get to show you how I do apply the primers. Here's some of the terracotta I'm going to use. I'm going to use this to put in some tone back there. And I'm going to try to use it fairly lightly. Give it a little bit of, I won't put it on, I'm not going to put it on super thick. But kind of working around the pastel that I've already got on there. I don't want too much smearing to going on, but we'll see how if I can make this work. Okay, there's that, and some over here. I'm just going to try to blend it up. Keep the edges soft. I should have wiped up that white. Gonna get some smearing going on here, but oh well. And the reason why I like using these primers as an underpainting is because I can do this, and because now I've got this warm tone that's underneath, but it's not pastel. So when I put all these colors on there, they're sitting on top of that acrylic. They're not physically mixing in with the acrylic. And that's part of what helps me keep all this vibrancy in my colors. You know, I can put like greens on top of that red, and it's not physically mixing and dulling it down. It's just optically neutralizing, but retaining the qualities of both the terracotta and the green and the violet and so on. That's what I really like. So look at that. Now we have a more vibrant edge going on there with that. Get this up here closer. All right. So I could have done it to the whole background if I wanted to. And it'll depend on how this turns out when I'm all done. I usually wind up tweaking all of my demos before I frame them anyway. So I put that on so thin that it's pretty much already dry. The acrylic really dries pretty fast. So I'm going to go ahead and see now I can put something back there that's about that value instead. Let me try this green. And then maybe a little bit of blue, because it's in the distance, so it would be a little cooler. And then when I take that other green in the sky and bring it down, blend that in. Maybe I can just blend that in, let it fade out on top of that. What I'm also doing here, in between each stroke, I'm wiping off my pastel here, because now I have some darker darker color here, and I don't want to put that back up here into the clean sky. So I've developed this habit, which is pretty easy to develop this habit once you've put a bunch of dark smudges up into a nice pristine light area. Okay.
Rita, we have a question about, do you mat these, or do you put glass right over the top of the piece?
I put glass right on it, and the small pieces I don't even use spacers. I just frame them with the glass on. And I know that might be a little controversial, but my decision to do that was verified shortly after I wrote a blog post about it. When I found a blog post by Richard McKinley, if you look up his name with the passe part out framing method, he talks about that. Taping all the way around the edges is what the key is. And he says whether or not you use spacers. So I took that to mean that it's okay. It's okay not to use spacers, as long as you're taping all the way around the edge. That's sealing it so that the air and the dust and whatever doesn't get in there. But I'll show you how I frame. If I have a 6x12 somewhere here. Somewhere I have a 6x12. Oh no, I don't have a 6x12. Oh wait, yes I do. Okay. I have one, but it might be the wrong color. I'll have to unwrap it. So in a case like this, unless I get, well, I did just order some. No, I didn't order 6x12s. I ordered 4x8s. Darn it. Unless I get new frames before I need to take this somewhere, then I will have to adjust my colors to go better with this frame. Let me back up a little bit so I can show you. Lift this up. So here's a frame, for example. So it would just go right like that with glass on it. No matting.
And no mat, of course.
Oh yeah, no mat. And because it's on Gatorboard, like I say, I could put the glass on there, get the tape around it. That's a whole package that's complete. And I just stick that into the frame, staple the back, and paper it, and it's ready to go. So yeah, see, if I use this one, I'm going to need a lot more of these subtle little grayish, greenish tones to pick up on that silver. Huh. I'm probably just going to want to order some of my usual. I usually get frames with a gold edge. And this silver looked so much more gold in the photo on the website. I thought it was like a warm silver, but that's okay. I'll just have to make more paintings, to go with this frame. Anyway, this is probably about 95% done. So just to get back there, let me just crisp up these edges a little bit, fluff them out after that background. Got some highlight. So anyway, anybody have any questions? If you're speaking, I can't hear anybody, so you might be muted.
I'm sorry, somebody asked and said, you could glaze the silver portion of the frame. And where do you purchase your frames?
Okay. These I got from jfm.net. So like James Frank Mark. jfm.net is a wholesale framing supply, and they probably have the best prices out there for that type of quality of frame. Although recently another friend told me that Jerry's Artorama has a frame style now they call their museum plein air frame, and they look pretty nice. They're kind of similar style to that. They don't have a whole lot of other varieties of particular different styles that are like this quality, but they just have that one style. But they have it in black and gold and silver and various tones. But I usually get mine from JFM. Sometimes I get them from kingofframe.com. Kingofframe.com. Their prices are not as good, but sometimes they have sales on a simpler frame. Like they have this one that's called their Taos Mini. I think it's this one right here. I'll show you with the bunny in it. This is a 6x8. It's a 6x8 frame, and this is the little Taos Mini frame from King of Frame. So it's super skinny, and it's about 2.5 inches, and it's just simple with the little edge. And these are like $24. That's a really good price for that site.
I have a question. You used a soft sponge when you did your underpainting. Don't you use, oh, my light's so bad, this stuff anymore? You used to use the pipe insulation.
No, I don't use pipe insulation for the underpainting. For one thing, I think that stuff can disintegrate when it gets wet.
Okay.
It's good for blending pastels.
All right.
I know Richard McKinley, that was one of the items that Richard McKinley showed us as a blending tool, pipe insulation.
Okay.
My favorite is plastic bag, or now gloves. These work the same as a plastic bag. It's great. But yeah, no, I don't use pipe insulation. I know it is a little bit firmer when you feel it, but I don't think it's going to hold up. Plus, I like to cut my sponge like these. By the way, this stuff, if you don't have an art shipping box that you can just take this out of and use, this foam is called Pick and Pluck foam. I found that out by doing multiple searches using descriptive words. But it comes in various sizes. I like the 1 inch. These are the 1 inch squares. And what I like about this is that you can cut it. I cut it into like I cut it in, I don't have my scissors over here, but I'll cut it at an angle, not corner to corner, but like a wedge shape. So what I use is like shaped like a little wedge. So I have this end here, and I can use that simulates like a little 1/4 inch flat brush. So when I'm doing my underpaintings, I'm using that edge, and then I have a fatter back end that I can blend with. And on that little video that I showed in the beginning, it was kind of sped up, but you might have seen me painting like this and then going like that, manipulating. I learned how to manipulate the sponge to get pretty much what kind of look I want to get out of it. And, you know, it is kind of soft, but I do have, I do prefer slightly firmer sponge. Um, the, the, I have some little pieces of some other type of sponge that I don't know where it really came from. Actually, I only have a little piece left, but um, keep an eye out for, like, if your husband is a handyman and gets things in the mail that are packaged with foam. This was like a piece about this big, and it came, I don't know where it came from, but it's much firmer than the other foam. It's harder to squish, and I've been cutting little pieces out of it to use. And so when I have like serious detail work that I want to get on my underpainting, and I don't want to use a little brush that I have to clean later, I'll just use a piece of this, and it holds up a lot better because it's firmer. So yeah, you know, firmer sponge will work better. I also have used chair cushion foam. I have a piece of just a square of chair cushion, and I find that's pretty good for initially priming my boards, because I prime boards that are big and then I'll cut them into pieces. But it's super soft. It's a lot softer than this even. Um, so it doesn't hold up as well. In a pinch, I can use it for my underpaintings, but
Well, thank you. I've watched a lot of your YouTube videos. I'm really
oh, good,
really a big fan. Thank you so
good,
much.
good. Well, if I'm able to plug in my 1 minute of self promotion here, I want to tell you all, if you enjoyed the demo today, I have a Patreon page that I started last year during the pandemic. I had been thinking about it for a while, but just never jumped in and did it. So I finally did it, and what it's turned out to be is a big repository for all of my videos from my virtual open studio days. I have these things that I've been doing, which actually was kind of a practice ground for those workshops I had to do last fall. I started doing these virtual open studio days, I called them, and I would just invite people to come to my studio, watch me work. So I have those on my website too that you can buy separately for $10. My paint alongs are on there too. The paint alongs right now are $20, but the Patreon page lets you get all of that for one monthly fee. So if you like my demos and stuff, you might want to consider subscribing to my Patreon, because for $10 a month, you get all of the videos. You can watch them whenever you want. I'm up to like almost 50 videos. That's the full length videos that are like at least an hour long, sometimes 2 hours long. And then for $25 a month, you get invitations to all of the virtual open studio days and to the paint alongs. So my paint alongs have been a lot of fun. I just did my Easter Bunny paint along yesterday, and I had something like 49 people there. It was amazing. It was my biggest attended paint along yet, but it was a lot of fun. So I don't know. There's my pitch. Take it or leave it, but check that out if you want to. It's Patreon, if you're not familiar with that. Patreon/Rita Kirkman Studio.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody have any questions? Any other?
Rita, I have one. Jody here. How close to finished do you think your demo is?
It's probably about 90%, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably about 90%. It's just, I think when I do these demos, I'm a lot looser and a lot freer with my colors than I tend to be when I can concentrate and focus more. Like it might take me 10 minutes to tweak this up to finish, or I might get going at it and spend another hour. I never know, because I might get into the zone and be like, oh, you know. but it's about 90%. I just look at it now and I think it's a little bit messy, so I can tighten up some places. And I think that let me put this on here so you can see what I'm seeing. I think that some of these shadows are still a little bit warm and a little bit dark, even though, you know, if I turn the photo on, the photo is pretty high contrast like this. But when I'm looking at just the painting, I'm seeing in here, it's just so dark and very, very purple. I think I need to maybe add a little bit more greens. There might be a little bit too much of the terracotta still showing through there. That's what's making it warm. That, and then there's a whole section right here that may be the right value and temperature, but it doesn't even have any pastel on it right there. And I guess that doesn't really matter as long as it's the right value and temperature. But I don't know, just little things like that, I'd, you know, be tweaking.
Rita, when you have it finished, would you consider sending me a picture of it that we could put on our newsletter
Oh yeah.
of the finished work? It's
Yeah,
great for
definitely.
everybody to see how you decided to finish it off. So
Yeah, sure, I will do that.
also, I might mention that one of the questions that came up earlier about paper was, the question was in reference to your drawings. They wanted your pencil drawing. I think they wanted to know what paper you
what
use.
paper I use.
Mhm.
Well, I actually get a paper from a paper company, the kind of paper company that makes paper for the printing industry. So like books and magazines and stuff. So it's not technically a drawing paper, but they're like, paper companies make like all the types of paper that you could possibly think of that you might need. And you could go in, most of them have a sample room. There's one in San Antonio called Clampett Paper Company. And I just go down there to their sample room and I look at what they have. And so years ago I did that and I bought like their whole ream paper. And in industry terms, I guess, when you buy like the whole batch, you're buying like this humongous sheet of paper, like 500. And so they chopped that into pieces. I had like 2,000 or 2,500 sheets of this paper. And honestly, I can't remember exactly what brand and type of paper it was, but it's some kind of cover, you know, like, I don't know, 80-pound cover or whatever. And it's a gray paper with like it's fairly smooth, but it's probably as smooth as, say, a nice drawing pad. Like, you get those pads of paper that you can get in a book that's like a sketchbook or something. And it's a little bit smoother than sketch paper, I think, because I like smooth, because I'm drawing, some of them I'm drawing 8x10, and I like to get that detail in there with those pencils. So, you know, it's not super smooth. It has enough tooth in it to catch the pencil. But before I got the paper from the paper company, I had been using, what was my favorite was the Artigan, Artigain, Artigan paper by Strathmore in the sky blue. I don't know why they call it sky blue, because it's more of a blue-gray. But it was a really nice, cool grayish color paper with a nice little subtle tooth to it, and just a little bit of fleck, like that type of fleck in the pulp of the paper that adds a little bit of interest. And so this paper that I have now was the closest thing I could find to that Strathmore Artigan paper that I really liked. So that's what I use. I do know it's acid free. That's all I know.
Thank you. Hey, Rob, would you like to ask the last couple of questions on chat and then before we close? Are you still there, Rob?
You're muted.
Yes, hold on a second. And what type of iPad and iPhone stand setup is that? It looks like a gooseneck adjustable device with clamp. Who's the manufacturer of this?
Yeah, it's an Android. It's an Android iPad. No. But yeah, this is actually a universal type tablet holder, and I'm not really sure what I've had this one the longest. It clamps onto my table edge, and if you let me turn it around, I might be able to see, oops, what it is. It's called, okay, it doesn't have a name on the back. I don't know, but if you just search on Amazon or search online, this one's kind of neat if you can see from there, because it has like these spring-loaded corners that these things grip. Oops, they grip your tablet from the corners and they hold on. And what I like about it being universal is that this right here is, let me do this and show you. This part here, is nice and deep. So it's not like it'll only fit a particular type of tablet that does not have a folder jacket on it or anything. It fits this one, this tablet that has this huge, folder, and I put it in there, and it holds on to those. It doesn't hold on to the entire corner, but it holds on to the whole that part. So it keeps it pretty stable. I'm running out of arms here. Put this back. But yeah, just Google it or search Amazon for universal tablet holder gooseneck or whatever. Use all those search terms. And I just looked until I found one that had really decent reviews. But see that it grips and it holds onto it like that. And then you can turn it sideways or up and down. Oops. You can turn it like that and turn it around. So it's pretty nifty. And then this one I just got for my phone. And actually I'd like to find a different sort of holder for my phone that doesn't come on straight from the back side. I'd rather, if they make something, I don't know, I haven't really looked yet, but if they make something, I'd rather have something that comes in and holds on from the side, so that I don't have this whole curve of this thing. Mm-hmm. This sometimes, I don't know, really annoys me sometimes. I'd rather have something be able to just come up and come in from the side. Anyway.
Well, I would like to say
hey,
that
Rita, this is Barb.
You're chopping in and out. I can't hear you.
Hey, Rita, this is Barb. I was asking about the iPhone holder or the phone holder.
Oh, okay. The phone holder.
I use my tripod.
Oh, hi, Barbara. I had to scroll through to see you. Yeah, you use your what?
I use my tripod and the clamp for my camera so that I don't have that interruption in the back.
Oh, yeah, I considered that. I have kind of something like that somewhere, and that is a tripod, but I need something to clamp still, because I can't have a tripod sitting in front of me or I'll trip on it.
That's another issue.
But yeah, eventually I'll figure something out.
Well,
good to see you, Barbara, by the way.
I, for one, would like to compliment you on all the work you've put into having such a professional setup that has made this so pleasurable. This is by far the best demo I've seen, as far as you're having your multiple cameras and the way you've positioned yourself so that we still feel like we're in your studio with you while you're working. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Hey, if you're not familiar with there's a group on Facebook. They have a page now, actually, too, that's called Pastel Artists Teaching Online. And if you look them up, I actually was invited to be one of the first members of their group. They were a group first, and we kind of all. That's kind of what helped me set all this up, because we all kind of got together and would chat about our ideas about how to teach online. And so now there's a page that the public can see, and we welcome all of you to come and like follow the page or like the page, or I don't know, whatever you do to get all the posts. But it's where all of these teachers who have learned how to teach online, like I have, it's where we all go to post our workshops and demos and whatever. So if you go on there, you'll see a lot of the artists in the pastel world who are teaching online, and you might have a good little pool of possibilities for asking for your future demos.
What's the name of it again, Rita?
It's Pastel Artists Teaching
Pastel,
Online.
like TEST?
Pastel, like what we're using. Pastel. Pastel Artists.
Right, Pastel Artists.
Teaching Online.
Teaching Online, got it.
Yeah.
And that is its own website. That's not through Facebook.
It's a Facebook page.
A Facebook page, okay.
Facebook page. So if you look them up, you'll find it, because it's there.
Right. Okay.
And then you can like it, or follow it.
Right.
And you can scroll through all the posts that, a lot of the people from the original group are posting on there. And
Right.
it can be a resource for you.
Right.
For finding people that have fairly decent digital setups.
Right.
For doing digital demos.
Right. Well, one of the things, we haven't had workshops probably in 3 years for various reasons. And so in the fall, what I'd like to try and do is get some shorter, longer than a demonstration, but shorter than a full 3-day workshop, something more manageable where people can check in for 4 or 5 hours for a short workshop or something, get some things going. But I just can't do that until the fall, but that would be a great resource for that, it sounds like.
Oh yeah. I'm sure any of the artists that are posting on that page can do that with you, including me.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, well, I think it would, in a way, it almost has a benefit over having an artist come to be here in Arizona, because there's a lot of expense in bringing that artist here. And then you have to turn around and charge all the people who are signing up a lot of money to defray those expenses. So if we could have more shorter Zoom workshops, I think it might be a benefit to everybody. I'm hoping anyway.
I have, if I can plug this in, I have a digital workshop, an online workshop coming up in June.
Oh, you
that
do?
I'm having just right here. I'm organizing it myself. Basically, it's the workshop dates that I would have been up in Washington State at Dakota Pastels. And a while back, they decided to cancel it because it was just too close to all of this stuff. So I thought, well, why don't I just go ahead and do it online?
Do it online,
so,
right?
So that's on my website too. If you
We'll
want to
be sure and put it in our newsletter as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then on something like that, is there a limit to the number of people that you take, or?
Anytime that I'm going to do something that involves feedback and critiques,
right,
I have to put a limit. Otherwise, I don't have time to get around. So I'm probably going to put a 15 cap on it.
Right.
It's a 3-day though, so like if it was only a 1 day, it might even only be 12 or 10. But 15 is going to be my cap on that one.
Right. I'll probably
But I
get in
had
touch
the-
with you later
You know,
about
I
it.
had the 3-day workshops last fall, the ones that I practiced all year to do, and they went really well. And I
Good.
think I had 15, or I think I had 15 in each of them.
That's good.
Maybe I had 12 in one of them and 15 in the other, but
Right.
you know, and then I love that little, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this app called Padlet. There's
No.
an app called Padlet, and it's so fun. And a lot of online instructors are using it now to, it's almost kind of like a Pinterest sort of thing where you have a wall or a board where everybody that's invited to participate in that board can post things. And it's super easy to use, like from your phone or whatever. And so that's what I use in virtual workshops, for people to take a picture of their work and then put it on the Padlet. And when it pops up on Padlet, I see it on my tablet,
Right.
and I critique it on my tablet right off the. So that's been pretty handy.
Right. So you and I are going to have to talk later on in the summer, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah,
No
for
problem.
sure. I'm going to have to get some good ideas from you, I think. Yeah. Thanks, Rita.
No problem.
Rita, I think we have hit the point where I should ask everyone to unmute themselves so that we as a group can give you a wonderful thank you. This was a wonderful
Yes.
presentation.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Lots of yourself
Thanks.
and your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome, awesome.
It really was awesome.
I gotta
Yeah.
go to
We had-
gallery view so I can see you all. There you are.
We had 33 people here, and they and most all of them stayed most all of the whole time. So that is an honor to you. So
Oh, thank you.
unless anyone has one last comment, I will close the meeting. We will say thank you. Rita, you have to send me your address so we can send our little honorarium to you. I don't have your
Okay.
address.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I will consider the meeting closed. I'll stay on for about another 15 minutes if anybody wants to stay and chat. So Rita, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
again, Rita.
you.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Great job.
Yeah, that was great. It was great.
Hey, Rita,
Hey.
I might, I'm gonna move my camera because I was thinking about your gooseneck holder thing.
Uh-huh.
I've got this boom attachment for my tripod,
Yeah.
and it's got you can hook the iPhone, your phone on that end. And then I can't aim the camera. And it attaches to my tripod.
Oh yeah.
I've got it just hanging overhead so I can do my demos from overhead.
Uh-huh.
But you can
Yeah.
put it, to the side, or just thought I'd throw
Yeah.
that out there.
I do have a couple of
strategies to help back to your future.
oh, I can't get that off. I do have a couple of these little like, what do they call that? Matriculated hinged sort of things that hold on to, they go onto the flash mount of a camera,
Right.
like an SLR. And I got those a long time ago before I was online, but when I just wanted to record some stuff. So I would hook up my SLR onto it. And I
Yeah.
have one hanging off of one of my shelves back there so it can zoom in over here when I need it. And I had another one above my other work table where I do my underpaintings. I used to do my underpaintings flat,
Yeah.
and actually now I prefer to do them upright. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a great idea.
That's,
You have
my tripod's about 3 or 4 feet away and it's not in my way. So,
Yeah. I wouldn't mind having something come down to hold my camera. The only problem with it is that I would have to have it very, very sturdy,
right.
and so it would stay put, which that's the one thing I do like about most of these gooseneck things are pretty stiff. And I'd have to be able to move it. I also thought about that when I had I went through a couple different microphones,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
headsets, And I thought about just having some microphone just hang down from the ceiling, like one of those really big, expensive ones that
Right.
have awesome sound. But I don't
Until
know. I
you
might
turn it
still do
on.
that at some point. I moved to earbuds so that I wouldn't have the feedback.
Yeah, I got the lavalier
Yeah.
put on my shirt. Yeah. But just wanted to give you an option to more clutter for your brain.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, when I get up to 100 patrons on my Patreon page,
There you go.
I have to set a goal.
But thanks. That was a fantastic demo.
Thank you.
Rita, did you say that you're wearing earbuds, which have a mic in them, and a lavalier mic?
No, I'm wearing earbuds just for the sound. So these are my speakers.
Okay.
So I can hear you. And my lavalier is for my mic.
For your mic. Okay, I got
So
it.
they're separate.
Mhm.
I used to use this. I used to use this headset, which I actually really like. I liked the sound quality and I liked the comfort. It's super comfortable. It's really lightweight, but it's a Bluetooth. And for some reason, after a while, I was having issues with Bluetooth connection. And I don't know why, but my son, who's the techie, said that can happen with Bluetooth. Like it was getting like not background noise, but staticky sort of like interruptions,
Interference.
especially if I'd walk around. And sometimes I like to walk around the room and still talk, you know. So I'm like, well, that's not good. Plus, I noticed in the recordings that it was doing weird things. So I had to retire it. But this is working out pretty well
Yeah.
so far.
Great.
The earbuds are kind of feel kind of weird when I first put them in, but after a little while, I don't even feel them, so that's good.
Cool.
Well, I'm here for as long as any of you have questions. I'm just hanging out.
You just set a high bar for next month, and now I'm panicked.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I do happen to be a perfectionist, and man, you know, if you had to know what all I went through, I tried to write it down in a document one time, like all of the things that I tried that didn't work. Ugh. You know, you wouldn't be envying me that much. This is not as easy. It's not as easy as this looks to get to this point. I was trying to use what I had available. Like one of the first things I tried was my SLR, because I saw something online that said if you use, I can't even remember what it's called anymore, but one of these things that connects from your SLR to your computer, you can use it to stream from your SLR, right? I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. I'll just use the one I have because it's a pretty good camera. But so I bought this thing and it wouldn't work. And then I find out that no, this video that I saw that said works on every camera didn't really mean every camera. It only meant like these certain models, which mine was not. So back it went to Amazon, and I tried this, and I tried that, and I tried this other thing, and tried like I had an iPad. I have an iPad, which, you know, I've always kind of preferred iPad tablet, and I tried to get that hooked up, and I'm like, surely an iPad, but no, Apple doesn't play very well with Microsoft. This is a Microsoft book, you know, whatever you call it, one of these tablet books, and so the iPad wouldn't connect properly. So I had to try something else. And thankfully, my husband had this old tablet, Samsung tablet, which was really a stroke of good fortune because this tablet, it's like the Galaxy Tab 2 or something like that. And it came with a pen, and it has this built-in annotating thing in the tablet. So I didn't even need, like, I was looking for annotation apps, like to annotate on photos so I could annotate on people's pictures when they would send them to me in the workshop. And it turned out I didn't even need to use that app. I found out by accident while I was trying to use that app that this other little annotating thing would pop up on the side of my tablet. And I'd be like, oh, what's that? And I found out that it's just built into this tablet. It has this fantastic annotating thing. So that helps me with my critiquing. And then, you know, I tried a webcam, like a, what do they call those webcams, I guess,
Yeah.
for this, but it doesn't zoom. So I'd have to have it super close. Or if it does zoom, it's optical, which is pretty worthless. So I had to wind up trying to find a way to get my phone to connect. So I tried all kinds of different apps to get the phone to connect. Even now, like yesterday, I had issues with the app that this is using to go into to my computer. And my son had to come out here and like tweak things. He's all about not paying any money for any apps.
Good for
So
him.
he finds the open source stuff and he'll tweak it to make it work for what I need it to do. And so the app that is mirroring my tablet to my OBS has actually got this tiny little tweak that he'd put on it that allows my computer to communicate better with the Cam-On app that's on my phone. And I don't know what he did, but thankfully it worked today.
Work today.
Questions?
Mirroring app that you use to go from your phone live streaming to your large screen TV? Is it the same mirroring app?
Well, I don't know, because there are probably dozens and dozens of mirroring apps, but the one that's mirroring my tablet to my OBS. So here you can see there it's called Screen Copy, and it's open source, and it's for short, it's CRCPY or something like CR. I don't know. It has an abbreviation, but it's called Screen Copy.
Okay.
And when I found it, like my son found it, he's like, here, you can use this. And I looked at their site, and it's one of these things that only like 20-year-olds understand. It was like just, so he set it up for me. My son got that to work. So I click this little thing on my laptop before I turn on my OBS. And when I turn on my OBS, there's my tablet is like right there. And for my phone, I use an app that's called Cam-On, CAMON. And that's just an app. You can get it in the Google Play Store. And it works better on Android, from what I've read. It'll work on an Apple, it'll work on an iPhone, but only at 720, not at 1080. So I use this actually at 1080 by 1920. It records that, which is nice. So the Cam-On app is what streams into my computer from the phone. But I was having some issues with that, so I don't know. I don't really understand the hows of all this. But my son made it so that this app that's mirroring my tablet, when that turns on, it also does something to make the laptop communicate better with this app on my phone. So go figure. I don't know. I have no idea.
That's
I'm
what
glad I have him. Glad I have him handy. But you know, this app was free and that app was free, and you know, so that's my OBS is free. OBS has a big learning curve though, but you know, it's not any more difficult than trying to learn Photoshop from scratch. Like if you've never used Photoshop before and you want to learn Photoshop,
Piece of cake.
OBS would probably be just as hard to learn. So if you know Photoshop and you've learned Photoshop, then OBS is different, but it's similar in that respect. You know, you can learn it.
My son-in-law, because he's the techie, he just set me up with all my Mac stuff and made everything communicate over the weekend. So I'm watching tutorials and learning. So that's why, but you know, I'm all Apple. So some stuff that you're doing a plot and stuff won't.
Yeah. Well, I know that Apple, I have a lot of friends in that group, that teaching group, that have just Apple stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff out there that can be used.
Thank you.
I have a
mean, there's
question,
probably
Rita.
thousands of ways to do what I'm doing. You just have to find the right mix, the right combination for the products that you have. Who had a question?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Where do you find your models?
Oh, for my portrait work?
Your animals?
Oh, the animals.
Yeah, and what time of day are you shooting them?
Oh, definitely morning or evening. You got to get it when the sun is lower.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you don't get any shadows, any good shadows.
okay.
And they're mostly in Texas. But when I drive somewhere, I always have my camera. Like, I love road trips. In October, I have a workshop in Minneapolis. And I'm so excited because it's like whoosh, straight up. It would only be more exciting if it was August instead of October, because it's so nice to get out of Texas in August. Barbara,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. So in
Arizona.
August, I'll still be here, but in October, I'm going up, and hopefully I'm driving. Hopefully I'm going. But that's the kind of drive. It's like 4 days. It'll take like 18 hours on Google, but I'm gonna split that. 6 hour day is my real limit, and really 18 hours is not really 18 hours, more like 22 hours with stops for food and bathroom. So, I'm going to take 4 days. So when you have 4 days to get somewhere, I just love that. I just love driving like that, because I plan my trips for like zoos or big parks, or, I'll drive in the evening, I'll get somewhere, and then in the morning I'll get up and I'll go somewhere. Like, I'll go to a park or I'll go to a zoo or something, get my walk in, take some pictures, and then I'll hit the road for another 4 or 5 hours, get to where I'm going next. And, anywhere that I have the time to get off the highway and get into back roads is so much fun. Driving straight north through Texas is a lot of fun, because there are a lot of ways to go north without being on any highways. Especially if I can avoid 35. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, speaking of going, this lady has to go because I farm out my little dog to my neighbor so that I don't have the risk that she's going to bark or raise any ruckus while I have.
Oh.
So I'm going to need to close now so I can go retrieve her because they have to leave at 4. So I thank you so much. Thanks for sticking around, everybody.
Thank you all for hanging out and chatting.
Oh, it was wonderful, Rita. Thank you so
you.
much. Very generous.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.